Hey every guys, Mixcule here. Today is a good day. A month ago, I released The Problems with Australian TF2, a video essay on my home region's rapidly declining health and player base. I touched on the bot crisis disproportionately affecting smaller communities, the consolidation of the player base away from community servers and its consequences, and the general sense of gloom that had set into my scene as we matched into the same casual lobbies day after day to get instantly kicked. Australian TF2 was starting to feel a bit like City 17, and those weeks were the only time I felt a real sense Oz TF2 was about to croak. I didn't want to be there for the death throes, so I took a long break after hitting publish, and locked out of my YouTube account. So what did I do in the meantime, waiting for the inevitable?
But
showers on the forecast for Perth from the morning period.
they don't understand, y'all.
I was enjoying being pretty offline, something we should all be more often. And so you wouldn't believe my surprise when I came back to something new, something groundbreaking. If you're familiar with our problems in the AU scene, you'll be aware how miraculous the last few weeks have been. Valve started with a mass ban wave that took care of most bots, then made a further series of patches for map exploits and bug fixes, which brings us to last month where we got our first serious content update in the summer 2024 patch. So has it answered the issues I brought up previously? Is Australian TF2 playable again? To answer this, we need to take a closer look at this update through the lens of community morale, the intentions behind Valve's recent moves, and what these things indicate for the future of the game at large. After the summer update, Valve released 6 successive patches, not just for issues with the summer update, but hotfixes for bugs like the earbuds self-illumination problems that have existed for over a decade, along with general statements like security and stability fixes that hint at more work done at the back end. These background notes are the reason I'm feeling good about the game. They show that Valve are listening to the community's bug reports, taking feedback, and actively developing their product from back to front. By the numbers, Summer brought in 10 new community maps, 23 new cosmetics, 4 new taunts, and 38 unusual effects. I appreciate all of these things, but if you wanted me to choose between new cosmetics or maintenance in the form of balance changes or engine optimizations, I'll always choose the latter. There's no point taking your car and modding it like you're playing Need for Speed Underground if it runs terribly. Regardless, it's refreshing to see more patches in the last few weeks than I'd expect to get out of the whole year. So I'd heard and read good things, but how did it feel on the ground? In my first few games, I noticed a return of community spirit across players I was lobbied with compared to recording my last essay. The new maps seemed to be designed for fun rather than balancing. TF2 briefly became an exploration game as my teammates gave directions in the team chat and complained about low frames on King of the Hill editions like Megaton. In Saving Australian TF2, I mentioned my concerns on the rising skill floor and the gutting of communication for new players trying to get into the game as problems for TF2's future. Adding variable maps in a designated queue pool helps a lot with this, as you're lumped in with the newbies to figure out routes and strats together. This lends a sense of freshness and optimism to your games. I don't really have a rating system, but this is good. Mixcule says good out of 10. With Casual investigated, I moved to interview the denizens of community servers. It was this award-losing journalism that led me to discover some earth-shattering news.
What do you think of the new update?
It's pretty cool. Why are you floating though? Why is your name an award-losing journalist?
What? What's going on?
There's an update?
Yeah.
The update's pretty good, because I did get this unusual from it. But the TF2 servers, you got stuff like Black Wonder and Skyle. I reckon they're all bloody stupid. I'm not a big fan of them. Because
I learned a mainstay of the Australian community, Have Fun servers, were shutting down on the 18th. I'd mostly use these servers as a good place for all talk when doing interviews or sketches, and as I watched some impressively organised heavy boxing on the last day of the server's existence, I got a sense of how important environments like these are to TF2's culture. There's barely any servers to start with in Oz past Uncletopia and Skyle, and a lot of my older videos took place on wacky community spaces just like these, on Jailbreak and Deathrun and the like. The loss of Have Fun makes the bot ban wave very timely. Casual was unusable at the time of writing my last video, and then it somehow got even worse after I released it. For what it's worth, I hope the Have Fun community is able to relocate into nearby community servers and build more memories, rather than being forced into casual. Speaking about casual, one of my previous points was how medieval mode had disappeared in Oz over time due to not having enough players to form lobbies, which has worrying implications for everything less popular than Community 2 Fort or Casual Dust Bowl. Valve has apparently taken notice of this problem by adding a new medieval map in the summer 2024 update, leading to me being able to play one of my favourite modes again for the first time in years. In terms of the other alternative modes, I've yet to find anyone in Oz who has been able to queue into them at all. I need to address the free-to-play in the room. With the bots gone, the communication bans on free-to-play accounts really have no place in the game. I'm the first person to go to bat for free-to-plays. Love them or hate them, they're the lifeblood of this game, and I consider any changes that benefit them to be good for the game's health at large. The TF2 is dying narrative is not doing any favours for the external perception of a game that may not have been dying at all by most standards. The active player base's perception of TF2's health is important for morale, but it's twice as important to prospective new players who are reading into these narratives when deciding if they want to join the community. I'm going to sound like a bit of an old head here, but God forbid you want to discuss this game online, because you will see some of the most nonsensical arguments and endless discussions about nothing. There's a tendency to tunnel vision on what Valve needs to do or should do with the game, rather than focusing on community aspects of the game that currently exist, like event streams, up-and-coming community servers, and user-created content. To quote Roy Batty, "I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. 3,000 threads saying Sniper is broken. I watched entire comment sections disintegrate into flame wars saying Hat Simulator now woke. All these posts will be lost in time." When you have been playing a generational game like TF2 for years, it becomes almost impossible to judge by the usual metrics. How do you rate a game that can provide you with a complex digital economy, or a completely absurd interaction depending on which server you join? Where do you begin to catalogue the cultural rules and customs among players, or even harder, categorise forgotten memes? Many would fall back on aphorisms like, "It's just a war-themed Hat Simulator," or "There's a reason it's been around so long." It's difficult to explain why I enjoy TF2, because the TF2 I'm playing now and the TF2 I played 5 years ago are two completely different things. This seems to be the fate for all games that allow a large degree of individual expression. I'd say this is where a lot of people get lost. If everyone played my kind of TF2, it'd be the best game ever, but no one does, and the reflection shifts again. If you've been watching me for a while, you might have heard me talk about consistency of experience as being a metric I like to judge games by. How do I feel during loading screens? Can I lose 5 hours in it? Can I trust I'll enjoy playing it, win or lose? When I wrote about Outer Wilds, I mentioned flying into Giant's Deep at 1 km per second and sitting underneath the waves. I can depend on that game to feel cozy and atmospheric, like I can trust my favourite movie, Manchester by the Sea, to always demolish me. I can watch Napoleon Dynamite and laugh at all the same jokes every time, because what I'm really responding to is the soul. And this sounds trite to say, but when I'm watching a movie and I'm looking at the background scenery, or I'm playing a game and I'm thinking about the menu buttons, I'm looking for this original intent. I'm looking for a sense of personality and a sense of vision behind the work, that somebody cared about this, put effort into it. Media that moves you is easy to find. Media that stays with you is rare as hell. As Norm Macdonald put it, it's easy to make people laugh, much harder to make them smile. Passive enjoyment, getting lost in the source, was the one thing a great TF2 lobby did for me better than any other FPS. There is no other game that allows exceptionally strong fundamental mechanics like aiming and movement to coexist with Charlie Chaplin-esque 19th century comedy. As a pure FPS, TF2 has its problems. As a piece of media, it excels. When we strip everything back to approach the game at a base level, the recent updates have marked a significant turnaround for the Australian TF2 community. The ratio of newbies to veterans has increased, the skill floor has lowered, unique game modes have returned, and Volvo seems to be taking a focus to keep the game approachable. There is still a long way to go. I'd like to see free-to-play communications restored, auto-balance turned off for parties, and for the love of God bring back quick play. Only time will tell for Australian TF2, but I actually feel good about the future. Thank you for watching my video, and as always, thank you to multiple people from the Australian TF2 scene for granting interviews, many small server owners that reached out to me after the first essay, and all who commented and liked it to help it along in the algorithm. And as always, thank you to you, the viewer, for continuing to support me as I create things that I enjoy.